Hey guys, I'm FatBuddyCat, and this is the Gx160 Race Day Mini Bike. Today, we're going to be installing the NR Racing Mikuni 22mm Round Slide Carburetor Kit from my friends at OMB Warehouse in Grey Goat Garage. We're also going to be installing this OMB Mikuni Throttle Linkage. This thing is awesome. You know you have a quality part when you can feel it just in the box. This thing's like a little treasure chest. We open it up. This particular kit is for the larger filter. So it comes with an adapter. Seems to be of fairly high quality. Here's our manifold. This is talking about the jetting, but I'm going to assume that's hardware that's in there, because I think I saw a jet, a gasket, a cable without a shroud. We might actually need that. I'll show you why. And this is the Mikuni Round Slide 22mm carburetor. I'm assuming since we have a jet that that's going to be the first thing we're going to have to change, or maybe put in there. I don't even know if it has one. Let's find out. Most carburetors, you flip them upside down and you take off the bowl. Alright? It's basically the fuel reservoir. Underneath that bowl is where we find some jets. Hopefully the one we need. Looks like 4 Phillips head screws. Wham bam blah jam. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. This thing is showing its colors. I like it. Very bold. Everything looks really, really nice. I think the jet we're going to be after is up here on the end. It's just a pilot. See, that one says K95. So we're going to need a flathead screwdriver and a wrench. The two jets are noticeably different in size, but don't worry, it's just the head of it, okay? The part that's threaded and the actual jet itself are just fine. Flathead screwdriver for the jet, and I just used a short 8mm wrench to hold that section. On a stock carburetor, that's an emulsion tube. I'm still learning about these guys. I have my new pilot jet in. You don't really have to hold this if you're turning it right, because it's threaded to the right, so only when you're loosening it. I just brought it in snug and gave it a little you know. Okay, with this pilot, I used a smaller screwdriver. The original one, I used a much larger flathead screwdriver. I believe these are made out of brass, which is very soft, and you don't want to strip that. The nice thing about these, you could get on it with some vice grips or some pliers and get it out if you ever did, because you can hold this with a wrench. It's always nice when someone's thinking ahead. The bowl only goes on one way. The way everything lines up, plus the gasket, and there's some internal pieces that sleeve down or up, because we're upside down, into the main body of the carburetor itself. So, kind of foolproof. If you notice, there's little lock washers. So, if you're careful with this, you can lift it off and put it down, keep all the screws in place, put it back on, tighten it, get out of there before anyone knows what happened. Alright, the next thing we're going to need is our gasket, our manifold, and our hardware. First thing I do is take the shorter bolts and I stick those through my manifold so that they're on the side with the D port. And then I slap the gasket on so that it faces the same direction. That way, when we're putting it on, we get everything right where we need it. Wrench at hand. Okay, I'm in, nice and tight. It took me a couple different wrenches to fit in there. Again, I guess you could get on the end with a pair of needle nose vice grips or something and turn those if you had to. If you ever got in a situation, you know what I'm saying? That was really, really easy. I didn't use any Loctite. I don't know that I would want to. I also didn't add a lock washer because when you start getting into tightening it on, you run out of room. My solution to that is going to be to get another wrench, and I'm going to cut mine short so that I have a tool to get in here and tighten things better. When I do that, I'm going to add a lock washer to each side. Look at that, I found a burner. I might as well do it and show you what I'm talking about. What happens here is you run out of space, okay, to get your wrench in. One of them, on the left side, you can go in from the front and you can get at that thing. Oh, I can get in there, believe me, guys. Alright, but you're still at a little bit of an angle. You can get a little bit of torque on it though. This one, you're at a much greater angle, and odds are you're going to strip that sucker pretty quick. So I'm going to cut about half the length of my short end of the wrench right off with an angle grinder. Here we go. It's funny where I get the inspiration to do these things. There's a guy, LIL Popeye. He's over in the Netherlands, and he actually builds his very own mini bikes. I'm talking from scratch, and he uses Honda Gx160s, and he's into the tuning of these and torque converters and everything else, and it's hard to get the right tools sometimes. So I found in watching a lot of his videos that he actually fabricates what he needs as he's going. If that's not a work in progress, guys, I don't know what is. Alright, as you can see, I'm now completely in my bolt. I'm square, and when I'm putting torque on these things, I'm a lot less apt to strip them out or make a mistake. Another benefit to this is as I back this bolt out, right, I now have enough room to get my wrench back in and do what I need to do, but I can get a lock washer on there and still have room to tighten it. I'm going to do each one at a time. I'll let the other one hold the manifold and the gasket in place. Oh, and by the way, when I'm talking about lock washers, I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about those little guys, just like that. Otherwise, you're not going to have enough space between the washer and the manifold itself. When I have one bolt holding the other, I don't have the other one completely tight. That way, when I get close to torquing them in, they're somewhat the same. You know what I mean? That way you have even amounts on both sides. You're looking to make the best seal that you can with that gasket and the two faces that you have to work with. Next, we're going to be bolting the actual carburetor on. Alright, for this part, they give us two of these longer bolts, as well as two nylock nuts. As you can see, this one I tried to put in already. Well, what I found out, guys, is you cannot put them in this direction because it will hit on this barrel for the choke. So we're going to go back to the manifold and place them on like studs. Then I'll put my carburetor on, twist my nylock nuts on, and then tighten them, juggling a little each side. That way we get a nice, even seal. Okay, I'm on there. I'm tight, and everything looks right. Next, we can remove this cap because we have to put on our air filter adapter. Looks like it just has a couple set screws. It'll go on and you set your screws. Okay, let's see how that goes. The screws pretty much line up with this section of the body on the carburetor on both sides. So that's what I went with. You set these things to the end of the threads, and this is surprisingly tight. Those threads, the way they are, the way they're machined and stuff, I don't think that's going to come loose, but we can keep an eye on it, and I might even try something different. But for now, it's on there. We might as well get our filter on there too. Okay, there's no doubt about it. It's got an air filter. You got all of that. I think we have something to make that look cooler too. Let me check. I think we're starting to see a common theme here. That looks pretty good, man. Oh yeah. Now for the good part. Where do you see this linkage? I absolutely love this thing. The actual bracket seems to be bare metal, and you could prep this and paint it. And normally, I think you guys know I would. I'd smack this around with some grill paint all day. However, this thing is going to have cables going through it. It's going to have a clevis passing by. Chances are this thing is right in harm's way. So anything that I do paint it with is probably going to get scratched off anyway. I did one on a Predator 79cc and it worked great, but I tried to paint it orange and it didn't fare so well. We're going to leave this one silver and let it break things up a little bit. The two bolts that you're going to need to remove from your coil starter are this one and this one. I think on the Hondas they pretty much go right around. Well, we'll have to see. If not, I know a trick. Here's the trick. This section back here on the actual fan shroud isn't threaded. It is right there. Okay? So for this one, I believe they give you your bolt and they give you some nuts and such so that just in case you could take your whole fan shroud off, right? And then go that route. Well, what I did is I get these little clips from the hardware store, and usually they're longer and they're square, and what it's designed to do is the bolt goes through the clip and it squeezes it. So I just cut the clip part of it off and cut the edges back so that it can fit, all right, in that area and line up with the bolt hole. What I do is I'm going to take it, I might have to spread this one with a screwdriver. Yeah. It's going to go over it this way, all right? And this section that flares out, that's going to go outward with the bolt as it goes through, is going to pass through that hole. And that'll help lock it in even further than just the clip itself. I get it on there. Show you what I mean. There's the clip in place. I just spread the tangs apart with the screwdriver enough to get over the metal on the coil starter. And you can see how the bolt is going to pass straight through. And then that flared section in the back is going to also go into the cowling. This comes down in front, and then we add our bolt. I think mine will be plenty long and get a lock washer on there. In tightening up my last bolt here, I stepped back at this thing and I think, you know, this looks pretty good. But I'll tell you, Rick from Busted Knuckles Build, he'd have my butt. that man uses chrome capped hardware and all kinds of fancy stuff. But it all comes out really, really nice. So, sorry, Rick. I'm trying, brother. Big fan. We're really starting to run out of things here. Next, we have our 2 adjusters and our 4 nuts. And these are going to be going on each end. They're both receivers. This one's receiving this way, this one this way. Nothing's tight. They're just kind of hanging out where they're not going to fall off. Now, we need to figure out how to get a throttle cable from here to here. To do that, we're going to need a throttle cable, but we're also going to need something to connect it to. And that is the slide inside your carburetor. I'm going to go ahead and take this top off. Be careful because there is a spring. There it is. Nice spring pressure, I can tell. I like that one. And I can probably get a sausage finger in there. Yep. And get my slide needle right out. Remember that cable? We can use that now. This is the really cool part. This is just a junked out old conduit that I had, and it's already got kind of a crimp in it in the corner from where it was put away incorrectly. So what we need to do is cut it so that we can get one end here and one end here. This is going to be pretty close to where that crimp is. So I'm going to cut it off just ahead of it. You could actually save that other piece just in case you ever get another one of these after you're so impressed with the first one. We're going to take the end of the cable that has the Mikuni slide barrel on it, alright, and we'll run that through our cap and our spring, and then we'll attach it to our slide. I'm not sure what the setting is on this slide yet. I'm going to assume it's probably somewhere near the middle. Until we fire this motor up, I'm not really going to know which direction to go. I'm going to guess lean, but we're going to leave it right where it's at for now. Let's get that shish kebab in there. Okay. Now we lower everything into place, and you don't force anything. It can only go one way. It goes in, and then you lower your cap on and tighten it. Don't cross thread it. It should spin nice and easy. Next, we grab the other end of our cable as well as the factory end of our cutoff. We're going to stick the cable in there and feed it out this side. You can pull this little rubber seal off and see that the factory end will go right in, okay? And there's a stop for it. so it can't go any further. Then you can push your rubber cap back down. And now you're going to feed this end through this adjuster. Oh boy, that's a little bit much. I'm going to pull my cable back through. Take a few inches off. Alright, that looks much better. All you need is a gentle swooping arc. On this end, the cable does not have to be that long. It's going to end up getting cut somewhere around here. There's a clevis that they supply you with that goes right around here. Your throttle comes back from your handlebars, ends here, the cable comes through, the conduit stops, right? And you just make the connection. We're going to be doing that in another video. But I still have one more thing to do. The next thing we're going to address is the spark plug. This modification comes from my friend Jack over at Link's Garage. What we're going to be doing is cutting back the electrode on our spark plug. Last time I was able to use a pair of snips and just take a little bit off. I just bent it back a little bit, gave it the torque thunder. I snipped right through. Now I'm going to grab a hammer and I'm going to gently tap that back down. I'm going to go as far as I can with my needle nose first, but it's going to get some of that action. I'm not going to lie. I just set my gap to 0.035. Here's what it looks like. Next, you transfer a mark onto the ceramic section, identifying where the electrode is. Since we want this end in on all the action, we're going to want this end facing up. Here's another head with the spark plug in it for demonstration. If the spark plug is in it, right, and this is how it goes on, there's our mark pointing upwards, right, for the back side of that electrode. Well, that puts the spark right where it needs to be. The problem is, when you tighten the spark plug completely and you send it home, it might not always line up where you want it to be. At this point, I'm going to take my spark plug and I'm going to install it in my head. I'm going to tighten it down, see where it's at. Okay, I'm tight. Let's see where we're at. Uh-oh. We're facing this way with our line. That means our spark is just going directly towards the intake side. That's not ideal. We need that spark to be down there. We need our line to be up here. This is called indexing. So, now, to index this properly, we're going to need a washer. Because if we subtract threads, right, depending on the thickness of the material, that would tell us where this line would end up, right? If it was a thinner material, it wouldn't be as much. If it was thicker, it would be more. I have over here a couple copper washers that I reamed out just for the occasion. They do sell them already sized. This is just, again, what I had to work with. Alright, now that I'm tight and I added a copper washer, I'm still facing the same way. Maybe I should add 2 copper washers. Ha ha ha. Okay, with 2 washers, I'm facing this way. Something tells me I need something in between. I'm going to take off one of the washers and see if I can't scrape it down a little bit, file it somehow. To speed this process up, I'm going to try to hold my copper washer down with a pair of needle nose pliers, and I'm going to let Frankie Dramelis here handle business. Okay, I'm going to give this a shot with just my filed washer and see what happens. Alright, now we're getting somewhere. Remember, we want this line up here. So, we're going to need to tighten it a little bit. In order to go in just a little bit, we're going to take just a skosh more out of that one washer. I'm not even going to need this second one. At this point, I'd say I'm about 2/3 its original thickness. Okay, let's see how we did. Oop. This is one of those sockets with the rubber insert. Nice. We'll leave that right where it's at. Oh yeah. Well, that's going to conclude this carburetor installation. Next, we're going to have to get it on the bike, tune it in, and see how it runs. Because as always, it's a work in progress. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good night. And I'll catch you on the next one.